All right, guys, here is part two. The next thing that we need to be aware of is the quartering of troops, and this caused a lot of tensions, especially in the Boston area. So the troops they weren't necessarily, taking over houses and bedrooms and whatnot. I guess that could happen, but the towns were responsible for providing shelter for the troops. A lot of times that would take place in a meeting hall or something like that. And of course there was resentment for even having to do that. But the biggest point of contention was the fact that the army was there at all. The war is over, and Britain, England never kept a standing army during peacetime. So this is what the problem was. The colonists felt that this was a real act of aggression, having this army stationed there when they were at peace. So that was the colonist side. Britain's side was that, they were protecting the colonists from Native Americans and whatever. So we, again, have those differing points of view. So we have this escalate. 1770, we have the Boston Massacre, and it really wasn't that much of a massacre. So 5 people ended up dead, 5 colonists dead, 3 injured. It was more portrayed as a massacre. The propaganda that went out with Paul Revere's engraving and everything really blamed and made the British soldiers look horrible, except the colonists had a huge part in this and really were the ones that started it. So in March, where's my date? I'm sorry. March, I think it was March 5th, 1770, cold, snowy night, and some colonists were harassing some of the British soldiers. The soldiers were not allowed to do anything until they were ordered. So with that, it just kind of had this snowball effect. At one point, someone started yelling fire. People were pouring out of their houses. You have just, the crowds, chaos ensues. Again, people were injured, 5 killed. But interestingly, John Adams actually defended the soldiers that were accused and their Colonel Prescott, the British officer who was in charge, and he got them off. 2 of the soldiers were convicted of manslaughter, and they were branded with an M on their thumb, but he got the officer off. So interesting to see, and the colonists were definitely to blame. Then we're going to hop to the Boston Tea Party. Now, Boston Tea Party takes place in 1773, December 1773. This was spearheaded by the Sons of Liberty, where they boarded a ship and dumped 45 tons of tea into the Boston harbor. With that, it was about today's worth, over $1 million worth of goods that was destroyed. So we have those 2 factions. We have the militant Sons of Liberty, tar and feathering, Boston Tea Party, things like that. And then we have our classical thinkers, Benjamin Franklin, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams. And we see how, they were attacking this problem from, 2 different angles. Okay, the first shots were fired July 29, 1775, Lexington and Concord. Declaration of Independence, 1776, was perceived as an act of war by the King of England, written by Thomas Jefferson. 2 big points I want you to remember from that. 1, those natural rights, huge influences from John Locke. Natural rights, life, liberty. Jefferson twisted a little bit, pursuit of happiness. And then their whole justification for what they're doing. That they are taking John Locke's idea that if the government is not protecting the people's rights, that social contract, then the people have the right to overthrow the government. And that's exactly what happened. So with that, the Revolutionary War is fought, led by our commander, George Washington. And really, it was kind of a holdout. The colonists didn't have to have a decisive victory. They just needed to hold out. They just needed to keep eluding the British until the British were like, okay, enough, too much money, too many losses, and end it. And that's basically what happened. Revolution ends September 3rd, 1783. With that, we have the Articles of Confederation. And this is a huge problem because the Articles of Confederation basically did not give the federal government, the central government, any power. And you guys already saw that. You saw their whole, the list of things that were basically wrong with the Articles of Confederation. So they were too weak, and there was no central power holding the states together. And it was really, really chaotic time. With that, our kind of wake up moment is with Daniel Shays, our rebel leader who gathered 1,000 men and was really ready to overthrow the Massachusetts government. And this is when everyone just kind of went, oh my gosh, this can't happen. And what if these states aren't strong enough to deal with this? So again, there was a lot of issues, lots of problems, but that Daniel Shay, that was really a wake-up call. With that, we have our Constitutional Convention. You guys saw all of those different Enlightenment influences from your article. Make sure that you're aware of that. Howard Zinn brings up the point that the revolution really wasn't revolutionary because it was elitist. I don't agree with that. What our founding fathers did was something that the world had never seen before, cobbling this government together as they did in writing the Constitution. And it definitely had its pitfalls. It was not perfect. And we see some downfalls. Yet, the way the process, the amendment process, and the flexibility of the Constitution allowed, future generations to fix those pitfalls. So, while it wasn't perfect, it wasn't a government that only benefited the elite. Okay, so our pitfalls, hold on, I just want to make sure. Oh, wait, hold on. So George Washington, elected unanimously. That has never happened since him. He received every single electoral vote. And he really was the only viable man at the time to be able to take on this position and bring the country together with his reputation and his wherewithal. He was able to do that. And he set the precedent so well of what the president should do and what the presidency should look like. Okay, so our pitfalls, real quick, 3 things. Slavery, of course, my goodness. Women's rights, and then the fact that you had to have property to vote. So propertyless males eventually got their right to vote. That was kind of a process state by state from 1792 till about by the 1860s. That wasn't really an issue anymore. A big push was with the Jefferson presidency, and then with Andrew Jackson. Many men were able to vote with or without property. Okay, so that issue was taken care of. Secondly, we have slavery. So with the 13th Amendment in 1865, slaves are officially free. And then the 15th Amendment in 1869, don't want to get my date wrong, sorry, gave Black males the right to vote. Women still don't have suffrage. And that finally comes with the 19th Amendment in 1920. Women are finally given the right to vote. So not perfect, but we were able to eventually rectify those things. Okay, don't forget, test on Friday over these videos and also your reading.